Discover the incredible journey of a humble farmer's son who created the car every child dreamed. In a small rural town, excitement was in the air, crackling like a static charge before a storm. Everything seemed frozen in anticipation, but deep within, a 15-year-old boy named Jake felt a whirlwind of emotions. This was his moment to unveil a dream that soared far beyond the vast fields surrounding his family's humble farmhouse. The scent of fresh hay mixed with the sounds of rusting engines from his father's old farm equipment echoed in his mind as he prepared for the annual county fair. Today, he wasn't just a farmer's son. He was an innovator, a creator, an underdog ready to defy odds. Jake stood next to his prototype, a car painted in vibrant reds and yellows that made laughter bubble inside him every time he saw it. It was more than a car. It was a symbol of dreams and hope. Yet, as the crowd thickened, snickers and whispers from wealthier classmates pricked at his heart. They said he was unworthy, that dreams like his were for those who didn't toil under the sun. Tears threatened to spill, but he wiped them away. He couldn't let their judgment dim the light flickering in his chest. "Look at that. What a fool," one voice mocked, earning nods of approval from onlookers. But then there were others, friends from the neighborhood, cheering him on, clapping hard enough to drown the cynics. Those murmurs of skepticism festered, but the support reminded Jake he was not alone. Even when doubt loomed heavy, everything came crashing down one fateful night when his father collapsed in the field. The world tilted beneath him as they rushed him to the hospital, worry gnawing at Jake's gut. The man who taught him about grit and hard work lay unresponsive. And in that moment of panic, Jake confronted a painful truth. Dreams felt far away when your family needed you. Jake's heart ached. Could he chase a dream when everything else felt precarious? But as he stood by his father's bedside, hope flickered in the corners of Jake's mind. His father had taught him more than just how to create. He had instilled virtues of determination, honesty, and everlasting loyalty to family. With every heartbeat, Jake's resolve solidified. His prototype wasn't just about aspiration. It was about honoring his father's sacrifices. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the day approached for Jake to present his prototype at a national competition, the tension in the town was palpable. The same classmates who scoffed now whispered about his courage. Some believed in him. Others, still steeped in prejudice, questioned his worthiness. Jake stood on the brink of greatness, but fear and excitement intertwined like braided ropes in his stomach. The moment arrived, Jake took center stage. His heart thudded against his chest, a strong rhythm of hope and vulnerability, ready to redefine his future, carve out a place in history, and perhaps inspire his whole town. Would this be just the beginning, or would it push him further into a world where dreams seemed impossible? Jake held his breath, ready for anything. As the spotlight illuminated Jake's face, the whispers faded into a dull hum. He could feel the weight of everyone's gaze on him, a mix of curiosity and skepticism. He wanted to drown in confidence, but doubt nipped at the edges of his bravery. The judges, stern faces lined with deep wrinkles from years of decision-making, sat at a long table, ready to evaluate him. Jake clenched his fists, searching for the belief his father had instilled in him, feeling like it was woven into the very fabric of the car beside him. Inhaling deeply, he stepped forward, clearing his throat as he prepared to speak. "Hello everyone, my name is Jake, and today, I'm proud to introduce my prototype, the Freedom Racer." The name rolled off his tongue, almost like a prayer. With each detail he shared, he noticed some faces illuminated with interest, while others remained stubbornly unmoved. He talked about the car's design, its lightweight frame, the safety features he had meticulously crafted, and how it ran on sustainable energy. As he spoke, His passion ignited. He mentioned the late nights spent tinkering in his barn, fueled by dreams shaped by love and hard work. Then he paused, bracing for what felt like a monumental leap into his soul. This car isn't just an invention. It represents possibilities for kids everywhere, kids who dream and hope, just like I did. Because those dreams should never be out of reach. The audience was silent, processing his words. A flicker of movement caught his eye. In the back of the crowd stood his father, propped against the railing, a frail yet unmistakable smile gracing his lips. Seeing him there made Jake's chest swell with emotion, a fire igniting inside him. This was for him. This was for them. Just as he felt a surge of triumph, a familiar voice sliced through the building tension. What a joke! You really think anyone will care about this piece of junk? It was Tyler, a popular kid whose family had money to throw around. His laugh echoed mockingly in the spacious hall. Jake's heart sank for a moment, the taste of defeat bitter on his tongue. Yet this was not where Jake would stumble. Gathering every ounce of courage, he turned to face Tyler. You might think it's junk, he said, voice steady. But I believe that every invention starts out small, just like every dream. If it inspires even one kid to chase his passion, it's worth it. Murmurs traveled through the crowd, reverberating with an air of newfound respect. He could feel a shift, something that felt like unity. The sidelines filled with friends, neighbors, and supporters who began to cheer for him, drowning out doubt with encouragement. With renewed strength, Jake locked eyes with his father's encouraging gaze, and at that moment, he realized this journey was more than just the car. It was about every kid who felt alone in their dreams, every farmer who worked tirelessly, and every person who believed that great things came from humble beginnings. As he finished his presentation, the applause offered a balm to his soul, washing away the hurtful laughter. Jake breathed in the moment, anticipating what lay ahead. Would their acceptance propel him toward a future he could only dream of? Or would the shadows of doubt drown out his light forever? The judges whispered among themselves, heads bowed in thought. Jake felt a new tightness in his throat. He craved their approval yet feared their judgment. What would they decide? And in that fragile moment, as silence enveloped the room once more, he could only hope his dreams were worth believing in. But as the head judge stood, a slight smile forming, Jake braced himself. What verdict awaited him in this fragile, pivotal moment? The head judge cleared his throat, drawing the attention of the entire room. Jake could feel the weight of everyone's anticipation hanging in the air. He held his breath, hoping the deepening silence wouldn't swallow him whole. Jake, the judge began, his voice firm but not unkind. You've presented a remarkable vision today. The Freedom Racer is not just a car. It embodies a dream and a future. This is something we need. The wave of relief that washed over Jake felt like a warm embrace. But before he could fully savor the moment, the judge continued. However, the words slithered through the air, and Jake's heart dropped. He braced for the strike. We need to discuss feasibility. Innovations like this require funding, and while the enthusiasm is clear, we must consider whether this prototype can stand against established players in the market. Jake's mind raced. Funding? This was no longer just a simple invention. It was about the future he envisioned for himself and others. I understand, Jake replied, his voice steadier than he felt. I'm open to suggestions, to anything that will help make this a reality. The audience was abuzz with whispered conversations, and Jake caught glimpses of doubt resurfacing in some eyes. But he thought of his father. He remembered the sacrifices, the late nights and those dream-filled talks by the old barn. That's the spirit. Another judge chimed in, a woman with kind eyes. But you must take this further. Your passion is evident, but your design needs rigorous testing. You need to align with a mentor, someone deep in the industry who can guide you. Mentor? The idea both thrilled and terrified him. I'll do it, he said without hesitation. I'll find the right person who believes in this as much as I do. Nods of approval rippled through the judges, and for the first time, Jake sensed he wasn't just an outsider. He was part of something bigger. But then Tyler's mocking voice broke through again. Good luck finding a mentor, farmer boy. Where are you going to find someone who even knows your name? Jake's heart stung, but he refused to let Tyler win. You might be surprised who believes in ordinary people. His words were laced with conviction, igniting the corners of the room again. The supportive faces surrounding him turned to Tyler, and he had nowhere to hide. The judges remained contemplative, and a new silence settled in as the head judge leaned forward again. All right, Jake. Since your work shows promise, we're willing to offer you an opportunity to apply for a grant that supports aspiring innovators like yourself. But you'll need to present a refined plan. Jake's chest swelled. He had a chance. He could do this. But the reality of the monumental task ahead settled in, a mix of hope and fear bouncing around in him. It wasn't just about proving Tyler wrong. It was about fulfilling a dream that had sparked in his heart. As the judges thanked him for his presentation, Jake knew the journey was only beginning. Questions raced in his mind. Who could he approach? Where would he start? And then came the most daunting thought of all: could he truly transform his dream into something real, or would he find himself lost in the shadows of doubt again? With his father still watching proudly from the back, Jake felt a renewed determination. This isn't over, he whispered to himself, clenching his fists tightly. The next chapter wasn't just about his car. It was about making a difference. As he stepped off the stage, the murmurs faded, but a fire ignited within him. The world outside was waiting, and so were the kids who believed anything was possible. Would he be the one to light the way for them? In the haze of excitement and uncertainty, one thought remained, pushing him forward. What if I fail? But that question transformed into fuel, urging him onward. Without realizing it, Jake had just begun to navigate not only his invention but the intricate web of dreams, failures, and victories that lay ahead. And so he walked, determination in every step, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. Would he discover the mentor who could guide him, or would he find himself left behind in the race of his dreams? Jake stepped out into the sunlight, the bright sky a stark contrast to the shadows of doubt looming over him. His heart raced, not just from the adrenaline of the presentation, but from the sheer weight of what lay ahead. The world outside felt vast and daunting. He squinted against the brightness, allowing the warmth to seep into his bones. He could still hear the echoes of the judge's words in his head. Feasibility and funding. Those stinging reminders catapulted him right back to the reality of his situation. This wasn't just about an invention. It was about navigating a field filled with seasoned professionals and established names. Taking a deep breath, he decided to make his first move. The local library, a quaint building always buzzing with activity, had served as his refuge throughout high school. There, he could find books on business, innovation, and stories of people who walked similar paths. As he entered, the familiar scent of old paper and wood enveloped him. He could lose himself among the shelves. He made a beeline for the entrepreneurship section. Each title he scanned had its own tale of triumph and struggle, and they sparked a glimmer of hope in him. He grabbed a few books, sinking into a nearby chair, crackling pages surrounding him like a safe cocoon. He read about successful inventors who overcame steep odds, each word fueling his determination. If they could do it, then so could he. Hours blurred together, and he emerged with a clearer vision in his mind. He would need a plan that outlined not just the mechanics of the Freedom Racer, but a budget, a timeline, and, most importantly, a list of potential mentors. Stepping out into the gentle evening light, he thought about who could help him. The local engineering college had a solid reputation. Perhaps some professors would be interested in guiding a young innovator. The thought made him feel light. Next on his list was reaching out to some local businesses. Jake noted the names of those involved in the automotive industry. He would write letters, describe his vision, and ask for their support or guidance. He would not be deterred. That night, Jake lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, an old map of his hometown hanging above him. This was home. Here, he could find the heart of the community and rally support. He felt a swell of pride thinking of the kids who'd look up to him if he succeeded. They were his why. But doubt crept in, whispering insidious words. What if no one believed in him? What if he wasted their time? He clenched his fists, shaking his head to dispel the negativity. He wouldn't let fear dictate his choices. A voice inside him roared with determination. The thought of proving Tyler wrong stung, but it wasn't the driving force anymore. This was beyond personal rivalry. It was about paving the way for future dreamers. In his heart, Jake knew he had something special. As he fell asleep that night, the weight of uncertainty clung to him, but so did a shimmering hope. He felt ready, yet he knew there was a long road ahead. What if he truly found a mentor who would light the way? Would they believe in the Freedom Racer, or would he be left on the sidelines? With each dawning day, he felt the urgency building inside, that spark that he hoped could ignite not just a car, but the dreams of every kid who ever felt overlooked. With that burning thought, he drifted into sleep, where visions of the Freedom Racer danced through his dreams, guiding him toward the adventure that awaited. Would tomorrow bring answers, or would it test his resolve like never before? Jake awoke the next morning to the sound of birds chirping cheerfully outside his window. The sun streamed in, casting rays that felt like an invitation to take action. He stretched, shaking off the remnants of sleep, and sat up, heart thumping with renewed energy. Today was the day he would set things in motion. He grabbed his notebook and scribbled a list of local businesses he wanted to contact. Each name represented potential allies in his quest. Jake's mind raced with strategies while he brewed a strong cup of coffee. With every sip, he felt more certain. This was his future he was building, and he was no longer just a dreamer, he was a doer. Dressed and ready, Jake decided to head first to the engineering college. The campus buzzed with students and their ambitions, all weaving in and out of buildings. He felt out of place for just a moment, a humble farmer's son amidst knowledgeable minds, but he straightened his shoulders and stepped forward, determined to find a professor who might understand his vision. After wandering the hallways, he found a bright poster announcing an upcoming engineering showcase. His heart raced again, an event where students displayed their projects. Maybe he could get involved, maybe share his idea there? But first, he needed guidance. He approached a professor's office, knocking nervously on the door. The gray-haired man inside, Dr. Whitaker, looked up and smiled warmly. "Come in." Jake introduced himself, every word feeling like a step outside of his comfort zone. He explained his project and what he was hoping to achieve. The professor listened closely, nodding thoughtfully. "Your passion is infectious, Jake," Dr. Whitaker said after a pause. "If you're serious about this, I'd recommend you refine your prototype and take part in our showcase. Could open doors for you." Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him. Here was someone who believed in him. They discussed the logistics, and Jake took notes feverishly. Dr. Whitaker promised to connect him with a couple of graduate students who might help build a prototype. As he left the office, Jake felt lighter, almost buoyant. Empowered, he next turned his focus to local businesses. With a handful of letters written that evening, he carefully crafted his vision into words. He reached out to auto shops and community centers, hoping to gather support. Days stretched into a week, and worry nagged at him like a persistent mosquito. Would anyone respond? Silence echoed in the back of his mind. Each morning, he would rush to check the mailbox, only to find it empty and the doubt creeping back. But then, one afternoon, as he returned home from the library, he noticed a familiar envelope sticking out. His heart thumped wildly. It was from a local auto parts store. Struggling to contain his excitement, he ripped it open. "Dear Jake, we believe in your vision for the Freedom Racer. Let us discuss how we can support you." His hands trembled with exhilaration, the words a lifeline to his dreams. He felt his world shift, a recognition that maybe he wasn't in this alone after all. Jake looked outside at the setting sun, knowing this was just the beginning. But as much as he felt the thrill of hope, doubts still hovered. What if he couldn't bring the Freedom Racer to life? The question gnawed at him, yet a flicker of resolve burned bright within. He had taken the first steps, but how many more would it take before he crossed the finish line? Would he be able to turn his dreams into reality? Or was this just the spark of something that could fade away? With determination surging through him, he set his sights on the coming days. What awaited him seemed monumental, but so did his dream. And the journey had only just begun. Jake stood in the kitchen, the sunlight bathing everything in a warm glow. The letter from the auto parts store felt like a wink from the universe. His heart raced again, a reminder that sometimes, all it took was the right words at the right time to light a fire in someone's soul. He couldn't let that fire die. After breakfast, he paced the floor, trying to map out his next steps. With Dr. Whitaker's encouragement ringing in his ears, he grabbed his notebook and sketched ideas for the Freedom Racer. What did it need? Speed? Safety? An eco-friendly design? He made notes, some wild scribbles filled with sketches and calculations. Once his mind settled on the specifics, he decided to pay a visit to the auto parts shop. The feeling of finally stepping through the door brought a swell of excitement to his chest. The place was a treasure trove of the tools and parts he had only daydreamed about as a boy. As he walked in, the tinkling bell announced his presence. A stocky man with a dark mustache looked up from the counter, his face breaking into a welcoming grin. "You must be Jake." "I'm Charlie," he said, extending his hand. "Thanks for your letter," Jake exclaimed, shaking Charlie's hand with an enthusiasm that made him feel a little giddy. "I can't believe I'm here. I've been thinking a lot about the Freedom Racer, and I really want to make it a reality." Charlie nodded, his eyes twinkling with interest. "I like the sound of that. Let us take a look at your ideas." He led Jake to a small office, cluttered with blueprints and parts scattered about like creative chaos. They talked for hours as Jake laid out his vision. With each idea he shared, he noticed the spark in Charlie's eyes grow brighter. "You're onto something big here, kid. If you can get the right people interested, this could take off," he said, sketching out cost estimates for various components. Just as Jake's excitement peaked, a thought crept in. Were his ideas too grand? He voiced his worries, unsure if he could capture the imagination of others. "Listen, every dream starts with a crazy idea," Charlie said, his voice steady. "What matters is making it happen. Let us start small. How about we work together on a prototype? I'll help get some parts at cost." Jake felt a rush of gratitude. The support seemed both surreal and grounding. "You would do that for me?" he asked, barely able to hide his disbelief. "Of course. Just because we're in a small town doesn't mean we can't aim high," Charlie encouraged, giving Jake a firm pat on the back. As they left the shop that day, Jake's spirit soared. Each step forward felt like a win. He raced home, eager to share the news with his mom. But as he arrived, he was greeted by an unusually somber atmosphere, the kind that felt heavy in the air. "What's going on?" Jake asked, confusion clouding his joy. His mother sat at the kitchen table, eyes glistening. "This Grandma, we got a call this morning. She's in the hospital." Jake's heart sank. The air seemed to drain from the room. He rushed to his mother's side, enveloping her in a comforting embrace, knowing life could change in an instant. The thrill of the day felt distant now, overshadowed by fear and uncertainty. In that moment, Jake understood something profound. Dreams are bittersweet and filled with ups and downs. He had to hold on tight to hope, not just for himself but for his family too. Now, he faced a choice. Let this news consume him or push forward, keeping his grandma's spirit alive through the Freedom Racer. But would he have the strength to juggle both worlds? As the shadows grew longer and the sunset painted the horizon, Jake could only wonder what the next chapter of his journey might hold. Would he rise to the challenges ahead, or would fear of losing someone he loved take the wheel? The phone vibrated in Jake's pocket, pulling him back to the moment. The noise felt foreign against the backdrop of worry swirling in the kitchen. He glanced at the screen, seeing it was a message from Charlie. "Feeling inspired? Let's meet tomorrow to talk Freedom Racer details." A strange mix of hope and anguish washed over him. He wanted to respond, to affirm that he was ready to dive headfirst into his dream. But the weight of his grandma being in the hospital stifled that excitement. The two worlds, his grandmother's health and his ambition, felt at odds with each other, struggling to exist in the same space. "Jake, could you help me with dinner?" His mother's voice broke through his thoughts, thick with emotion. She needed support too. They worked together, chopping vegetables and stirring pots, the kitchen filling with aromas that momentarily softened the tension. "Mom, how is Grandma?" he asked, looking up from the stove. "I don't know, we just have to wait and see. The doctor said she might need surgery." Her voice cracked, the fear always lurking at the edge, ready to spill over. Jake nodded, stirring the stew absent-mindedly. It felt difficult to breathe as the clock ticked loudly, turning every second into a reminder of uncertainty. Grandma had always been a cornerstone in their lives, her laughter, her stories, and her indomitable spirit. The thought of losing that warmth was unbearable. That night, as he lay in bed, the stars twinkling outside his window reflected his thoughts, the vast potential of his dreams, mixed with the deep-rooted fear of loss. The roller coaster of emotions kept him awake as visions of the Freedom Racer spun in his mind, each detail bringing him back to Charlie's enthusiastic encouragement. Yet what would he say if Grandma couldn't see it come to life? Would it mean anything without her laughter echoing in the background? He turned over, staring at the ceiling, willing himself to come to terms with the tough reality that life was fragile. Morning found him bleary-eyed but resolute. After breakfast, he decided to visit the hospital. He needed to see Grandma, to hold her hand and remind himself of her strength. He walked down the familiar streets, yearning for comfort but fighting the urge to succumb to despair. Arriving at the hospital, he felt his heart race. It was a place filled with quiet anguish and muffled voices. The air smelled sterile, and his shoes squeaked on the linoleum floor. He climbed the stairs, each step echoing his internal struggle. When he finally reached her room, he hesitated at the door. The sight of her pale figure lying in bed tugged at something deep within him. He entered softly, heart in throat. "Hey, Grandma," he whispered, moving to her side. Her eyes fluttered open, and a weak smile pulled at her lips. "Jake, you came. I was hoping to see you." Those words struck a chord. He took her frail hand in his, squeezing it gently. "I'm here. I love you." She nodded, eyes glistening. "And I love you. Never forget your dreams, kid." Tears brimmed in his eyes as he took in her words. Suddenly, he felt a shift. His dreams didn't exist in isolation, they intertwined with the love of the people around him, especially her. As he sat there, time stretched, merging the fear of loss with the hope of tomorrow. He realized that he couldn't let fear dictate his passion. He decided then and there he would build the Freedom Racer for Grandma. Every turn of the wrench, every polished bolt would feel like a tribute to her spirit. With newfound determination, he understood what he had to do. He would reach out to Charlie as soon as he got home. The path forward was clear, carved out of love and resilience. But as Jake stood up and leaned up against the wall to gather himself, he noticed a nurse lingering at the door, her face tight with unspoken words. "I'm sorry, but we have some updates about your Grandma." The uncertainty gripped him once more like a vice. What news awaited him? Would hope continue its fragile dance? Or would it fall silent in the face of reality? Jake's heart thundered as the nurse stepped into the room with an air heavy with unspoken truths. Her calm demeanor felt like a storm waiting to break. He shifted nervously, searching her eyes for clues, hoping for light but fearing shadows. "I think it's best if we talk in private," she said softly. The words twisted in his gut. "Is she okay?" Jake managed to ask, desperation clinging to every syllable. The nurse nodded slowly, but Jake could sense the weight behind the action. "There are some developments," she began, leaving the sentence hanging in the air like a dark cloud. Taking a deep breath, he followed her out into the sterile hallway, the fluorescent lights casting a harsh glow over everything. Silence loomed between them, punctuating the din of hospital sounds. His mind raced with thoughts, imagining every possible outcome. Finally, they stopped by a small room, a consultation space. The door closed softly behind them, sealing them off from the world. "Your grandmother's condition has changed," the nurse continued, her voice steady despite the heaviness of the news. "The doctors believe surgery is necessary, and it's scheduled for later today. Can be risky, but they will do everything possible." Jake's chest tightened. "Will she make it?" The words felt like shards of glass lodged in his throat, cutting through his hope. The nurse searched his eyes, her own filled with compassion. It's hard to say. We have to stay positive. She's been a fighter, and she has a wonderful support system. He swallowed hard, imagining Grandma's smile, her laughter a lifeline that felt frayed and tenuous. Can I see her before the surgery? Of course, the nurse replied. I'll take you back. As they walked, every step felt like a mile. Jake replayed her words in his head, so desperate for her to come through this. She was still his rock, even in her frail state, her spirit always shimmering just beneath the surface. He entered the room, and Grandma looked smaller than he remembered, a fragile whisper of the woman who had taught him about resilience. The machines beeped softly beside her, a rhythm they had to follow. Grandma? He said, walking to her side. She turned her head slowly, a faint smile breaking through her weariness. Jake, you're back. Her voice was a gentle rasp. I'm here, he said, taking her hand again, feeling her warmth. They say you need surgery. She nodded. Understanding flashed in her eyes. Yes, but not to worry. I face tougher things. As he settled into the chair beside her, fear washed over him, deep and unsettling. He couldn't let her down. I want to build that freedom racer, Grandma. I'm gonna do it for you. Every bolt will carry your spirit. Her eyes sparkled, and she squeezed his hand. And I'll be cheering you on every step of the way. You promise? I promise, Grandma said, her voice steadier now. They sat in silence, comforted by the shared moment. Tears pricked Jake's eyes as he thought of the dreams woven so intricately with love and loyalty. But then the nurse reappeared, and the gravity of the moment pressed down on him again. Jake, it's time, she said gently. His heart raced. He leaned closer to her, desperate for a final connection. I love you, Grandma. No matter what happens. I love you too, sweetheart. With that, she closed her eyes briefly, collecting her strength. Jake took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He would be there when she came out of surgery. He had to believe in that. As the nurse led him away, the weight of uncertainty hung in the air. He looked back once, seeing her face, the fighter, his everything. Could he really hold on to hope, or would it slip from his grasp once more? The surge of anticipation collided with his dread, and he made a decision then. If she emerged from the surgery, it would mean something profound. But what if things didn't go as planned? Would he have the strength to forge ahead with his dreams without her? The questions loomed over him like a shadow, whispering doubt. Jake stepped into the hallway, resolved to face whatever storm lay ahead, not knowing if that meant embracing his past or letting it go. Jake sank into a cold plastic chair in the waiting area, surrounded by muted conversations and the sterile scent of antiseptic. Each second stretched like an hour. He could hear the ticking of the wall clock, a relentless reminder of the time passing without Grandma. He forced himself to breathe, reflecting on the promise he made to her. The freedom racer, they had envisioned it together, an ode to her spirit. He could almost hear her voice, urging him to keep going, to make things happen, no matter the odds. With shaky hands, he pulled out his phone and began flipping through old pictures. There was Grandma, standing proudly beside his first bike, her arms wide open, welcoming him into a world of possibilities. The warmth of memories began to thaw the icy grip of fear around his heart. Hey, how is she? A familiar voice jolted him back to the present. It was Lucas, his best friend, sliding into the seat beside him. The concern etched on his face mirrored Jake's turmoil. Not sure yet, Jake said, swallowing hard. She's in surgery. They said it's risky. His voice faltered. Lucas put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You've got this, man. Whatever happens, she'll be proud of you. He leaned in closer. And remember, we're all here for you. Jake nodded, grateful for the support. Lucas was the kind of friend who infused hope even in the darkest moments. Still, doubts swirled in Jake's mind. What if he lost her? His shaky grip on reality threatened to pull him into despair. So, tell me about the freedom racer, Lucas beckoned, diverting Jake's racing thoughts. How's it gonna look when it's done? Jake felt his pulse quicken, excitement mingling with anxiety. It's gonna have streamers, he said, his voice gaining strength. and flames painted down the sides. Definitely bright red. Awesome. Lucas grinned. And the engine? What are you thinking? Jake shifted in his seat, a spark igniting in his chest. I want it to be electric. Fast enough for the kids to race each other in the neighborhood. It'll be fun, you know? Fun is an understatement, buddy. You should pitch it at the next science fair. Who knows? It might just catch attention. That idea sent a thrill through Jake. As they talked, a sense of possibility began to diffuse the tension coiling within him. Maybe building the Freedom Racer wasn't just about honoring Grandma, it could be a way to carry her spirit into the future. Suddenly, a doctor in scrubs emerged from the double doors, scanning the waiting room. The heartbeat of silence descended as everyone held their breath, waiting for the verdict. Jake's heart thundered anew, amplifying the fear and hope clashing within him. He pushed himself up from the chair, every part of him screaming to know. "Excuse me, doctor," he called out, and the doctor turned toward him, compassion swimming in his eyes. "Jake? We've completed the surgery." Jake's breath hitched. The words hung heavy. What would come next could change everything. As the doctor's lips moved, Jake strained to catch every word, his mind racing between hopes and fears. Would this be the moment he had yearned for, or would it break him apart? He needed answers, yet gripping uncertainty held him tight. What lay ahead could either break him or propel him further into the future he envisioned. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the real journey was just beginning. Would he be able to embrace it no matter the outcome? Jake held his breath, the weight of hope and uncertainty pressing against his chest, as he prepared to hear the doctor's words. "She's stable and the surgery went well. We're hopeful for her recovery," the doctor said, relief flooding his tone. Jake exhaled, a rush of warmth enveloping him as tears pricked at the corners of his eyes. His heart soared as the storm clouds of doubt began to part, letting in rays of light. "Can I see her?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, trembling with the aftermath of anxiety. "Of course. She'll be in recovery for a bit. I'll let you know when you can go back," the doctor replied, offering a reassuring smile before he turned to indicate someone else to speak with. Lucas clapped him on the back, a mirthful glint in his eyes. "You did it. I knew she'd pull through." With every passing moment, a sense of conviction bubbled up in Jake. If Grandma could fight through this, he could fight for his dreams too. "I need to work on the Freedom Racer. When Grandma wakes up, I want her to see how her spirit lives on," Jake said, passion igniting every word. As he waited for more news on his grandmother, he secured commitments from local businesses for parts and even found connections to the engineering department through Dr. Whitaker. With every yes he heard, every partnership he forged, his vision began to coalesce into something tangible. By the time he heard the word ready from the nurse, he had filled pages with designs and calculations. He hurried down the hall, excitement thrumming in his veins. Stepping into his grandma's recovery room felt surreal. She lay there, but on her face was the unmistakable essence of tenacity. Her eyes, though slightly heavy, lit up. "Jake," she murmured as she saw him, strength threading through her voice. "Hey, Grandma, you did it." He rushed to her side, grasping her hand, feeling warmth radiate from her fingertips. "I've got plans." "Plans?" she asked, a soft smile gracing her lips. "The Freedom Racer. Grandma, I'm gonna build it for you, use it to inspire other kids." She nodded, a proud glimmer in her eyes. "That's the spirit, Jake. You chased that dream." The days unfurled into weeks, and each passing moment brought him closer to launching his prototype. Jake embraced everything every late night in the barn. The sizzle of welding, the rush of planning refinements. He partnered with a few local engineering students, and together they transformed his ideas into reality. Every bolt they turned, every wire they connected brought him closer to his goal. The day of the unveiling grew near, and with it swelled excitement lingering in the hearts of his community members. Everyone rallied to support him, friends, family, local businesses instilling warmth in his spirit. Finally, the day came when they placed the Freedom Racer on display for the fair. It stood proudly, vibrant reds and yellows glimmering in the sunlight. Laughter erupted around the crowd as kids jumped up and down, eyes sparkling with wonder. Jake stood at the forefront, heart thundering in sync with the thrum of his community's support. The excitement swirling in the air pushed him forward, reminding him of why he created it in the first place. He spotted Grandma in the crowd, her radiant smile illuminating even the darkest corners of doubt. She was there right beside him just like always. Jake thought about all the challenges, the fears he had faced, and how every step forward had been on the shoulders of love shared. Their eyes met, and as he stepped towards her with the sound of cheering children buzzing in his ears, he felt the press of uncertainty fade. A welcoming hug replaced it. "Look at that. You did it," she exclaimed, her voice proud and strong, resonating like a melody through his heart. "I couldn't have done it without you," he said, tears streaming down his cheeks. With laughter bubbling between them, Jake realized their struggles had shaped him into the person he was meant to be, not just a boy with a dream, but a beacon for others, embodying hope and resilience. The Freedom Racer wasn't just about speed or innovation. It was a celebration of belief, community, and unwavering spirit. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in pale golds and warm oranges, Jake understood one truth. Dreams aren't just meant to be followed. They're meant to be shared. And in that moment, he knew this was truly just the beginning. You need to subscribe now to join the journey of an incredible transformation. This is the moment to show your support and be part of the community that believes in dreams coming true. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others feel this joy. Comment below with your reactions and feel the connection of shared dreams. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a little inspiration in their lives. Let us light the way together.